The gate was already open when I pulled up that morning. Not broken open, not forced. Open like someone had a key and didn't bother closing it behind them. That's the detail that bothered me more than anything else that came after. Because only 3 people had keys to the rear access gate of the Briarwood Ranch property. Me, my property manager Mateo, and the HOA management office. Mateo was in Phoenix. I parked outside. Didn't drive through. Something in my gut said don't. 18 years in federal investigations teaches you that when something feels wrong before you can explain it, you slow down. So I sat in my truck, engine off, and watched. Nothing moved. The Briarwood Ranch parcels weren't some hobby farm, 12 acres. Working horses, a hay lease agreement. A water easement that 3 neighboring lots depended on. I'd bought it for years earlier after my transfer to the regional field office. Quiet place. The HOA Crestview Valley technically covered only the residential portion of the property, not the ranch land itself. That distinction had been a source of friction almost from the beginning. Her name was Sylvia Haynes, vice president of the Crestview Valley HOA board. She didn't shout. She didn't wave her arms. That's what made her different from what you'd expect. Sylvia was meticulous, patient, the kind of person who built a case slowly, document by document, until the walls closed in before you realized they'd been moving at all. I'd had a few exchanged emails, a notice about fence visibility from the road. Nothing that felt like a real threat. I was wrong about that. Right. I got out of the truck and walked through the open gate. What I found wasn't vandalism. It was a survey stake, brand new, orange flag. Planted 12 feet inside my property line, near the water junction where the easement split. And next to it, a laminated notice in a clear sleeve, zip-tied to the stake. Notice of recorded encroachment. Crestview Valley HOA. Pursuant to CC&R, Section 14.2b. I read it twice. Then, I photographed it. Then, I stood there for probably 2 full minutes in the silence of that morning, trying to process what I was actually looking at. They weren't claiming I'd violated something. They were claiming the land, specifically the 12 feet between the actual boundary and where that stake now stood, fell under common area jurisdiction due to an easement ambiguity they'd apparently recorded with the county 3 weeks earlier. 3 weeks without notifying me. I called my property attorney that same afternoon. She pulled the county records while I was still on the phone. It was real. Sylvia's HOA had filed a quiet title adjacent claim through a title company. Obscure process, rarely used, legally valid if unchallenged within a certain window. The window was 45 days. 22 of them were already gone. I want to be clear about something. I have spent nearly 2 decades working federal investigations. I understand bureaucratic manipulation. I understand when someone is using a system as a weapon. And I still genuinely felt, a specific kind of cold anger that I had to work to contain. Because this wasn't a neighbor complaint. This was a coordinated legal move, designed to quietly strip a portion of my property while I wasn't paying attention. I started paying attention. Over the next week, I documented everything. Pulled the original survey from when I purchased, cross-referenced the easement language from 2019. My attorney filed a formal objection with the county and sent a cease and desist to the HOA management company. Standard first move. What I didn't do was confront Sylvia directly. That was intentional. When someone has already shown you they operate through systems rather than confrontation, you don't hand them a confrontation. You work the same way they do. Then, her brother showed up. His name was Deputy Mitchell Haynes. I found that out later. When he pulled up to my gate on a Wednesday morning, he was in partial uniform. Not on duty, I confirmed. That, but with his county sheriff's vehicle. The truck, the badge visible on his belt. He had a printed letter with him, supposedly from the HOA Property Management Company, informing me that pending the title dispute, my rear gate keys were to be surrendered for custodial holding. He said it almost professionally, like he'd rehearsed it. This is a voluntary compliance request. The board just wants to preserve the status of property during the dispute period. I looked at the letter, then at him. I had my credentials in my jacket because I'd come from a morning briefing downtown, which was not typical, honestly. Most days I dressed down at the property, but that morning I hadn't changed yet. I said, "Are you here in an official capacity?" He said, "I'm here as a courtesy." I said, "Then I'm going to extend you the same courtesy. These keys don't leave my possession. If the HOA wants to pursue a temporary injunction through the court, they're welcome to file one. The cease and desist my attorney filed 3 days ago is currently on record, which your sister knows." His posture changed when I said, "Your sister." He hadn't known that I knew. That was visible on his face. Real discomfort, not performance. He'd come here thinking he was talking to a property owner who hadn't connected all the dots yet. I showed him my credentials, not aggressively, just placed them in his line of sight open. He looked at them for a long moment. "I'm not here to cause any problems," he said. "I understand. And I'm not recording this conversation or reporting this interaction to your department. As long as we're clear that nothing changes hands today and this doesn't happen again." He left. And I wish I could tell you that was the end of it, that Sylvia backed down, the claim dissolved, and the gate stayed locked under my keyring where it belonged. That's not what happened. She didn't send her brother again. She did something smarter. 2 weeks later, one of the water easement's neighboring lot owners, a man named Kowalski, who I'd had a perfectly cordial relationship with for 3 years, filed a separate complaint with the county water district, citing disputed access authority over the shared junction. Sylvia had gotten to him. I don't know what she told him, whether she offered him something or scared him into it. But his complaint created a secondary freeze on the easement usage that my attorney said could take months to untangle, regardless of how the title dispute resolved. Matias still needed water. Matias still needed the access route. And now there was a procedural cloud over all of it. We won the title dispute. Eventually, 40 days later, the county rejected Crestview Valley's claim based on a defect in the original easement language they'd cited. My attorney described it as a clear overreach that shouldn't have made it this far, but Kowalski's complaint is still pending. The water junction is technically accessible, but practically uncertain. Mateo handles it carefully now, making sure we document every single use in case it becomes evidence later. Sylvia is still VP of the Crestview Valley Board. She sent me a cordial email 2 weeks after the title ruling, something about upcoming paving work on the shared access lane, asking if I'd reviewed the new schedule. Completely normal tone, no acknowledgement of anything. I didn't respond. I've interviewed people over the years who operated the way she does, who understand instinctively that the most durable kind of power doesn't announce itself. It just keeps finding a new door. I changed the gate lock 3 days after her brother showed up. New keys, new hardware, 2 copies. One with me, one with Mateo. I still check the gate every time before I drive through.